Hi, I'm Gideon. Today, I'm going to tell you my story. But before I continue, please share, and subscribe to hear more stories like this. My stepbrother Rafferty and I never had what you'd call a close relationship, but I never imagined he was capable of what he did. Our parents married when I was 16 and he was 14, one of those second marriage situations where everyone pretends they're a happy blended family while quietly resenting the intrusion. My dad, Tobias, had married his mother, Lenore, after my own mother passed away from cancer. I was still grieving, and suddenly I had this woman and her sullen teenage son moving into our house like they belonged there. Rafferty was always trouble. He got kicked out of 2 high schools, arrested twice for petty theft before he turned 18, and bounced from job to job, unable to keep anything steady. By the time he was 23, he had already had one failed marriage that produced a daughter named Emberly. She was 3 years old when everything happened, this tiny blonde kid with her mother's eyes and, unfortunately, her father's lack of stability in her life. Rafferty's ex-wife, Carenza, had primary custody of Emberly. She was a dental hygienist, responsible, stable, everything Rafferty wasn't. But she'd been diagnosed with aggressive leukemia about 8 months before the incident. She fought hard, but the treatments weren't working, and she knew she was running out of time. That's when she made the devastating decision to ask Rafferty to take Emberly full-time. She had no other family, her parents had died years earlier, and her only sister lived overseas and couldn't take a child. I remember Rafferty calling me, panicked. Carenza wants me to take Emberly, like permanently. She's your daughter, of course you should take her. But I don't know how to be a dad, Gideon. I work weird hours. I don't have space in my apartment. I don't know anything about kids. Then you figure it out. That's what parents do. He'd agreed, reluctantly, and Emberly moved in with him 2 months before Carenza passed away. I visited once during that time, bringing toys and children's books. Rafferty's apartment was a disaster. Dishes piled in the sink, laundry everywhere, no sign that a toddler lived there except for a small mattress on the floor in the corner of his bedroom. Emberly sat on that mattress, clutching a stuffed rabbit, her eyes wide and sad. "Hi, Emberly. Remember me, Uncle Gideon?" She nodded but didn't speak. Rafferty said she'd stopped talking much since her mother got sicker. My heart broke for this kid who was losing everything she knew. Then Rafferty met Sienna. She was 26, worked as a bartender at a club downtown, and had that hard edge of someone who'd decided life owed her something better than what she had. She was attractive in a severe way, all sharp angles and sharper attitude. Rafferty was obsessed with her within 2 weeks of their first date. "She's amazing, Gideon. She's not like other girls." "What about Emberly? How does Sienna feel about you having a daughter?" "She's cool with it. She said kids don't bother her." That was a lie, but I didn't find that out until later. What Sienna had actually said was that she could tolerate the kid if Rafferty kept her out of Sienna's way. She didn't want to play stepmom, didn't want to be inconvenienced, and made it clear that Emberly was Rafferty's problem, not hers. My wife Saskia and I had Rafferty and Emberly over for dinner about a month into his relationship with Sienna. Emberly was quiet, but seemed relatively okay, eating her chicken nuggets and watching cartoons on our tablet. Rafferty spent the whole time talking about Sienna, how hot she was, how exciting their relationship was, how she made him feel alive. "What about Emberly?" Saskia asked. "How's she adjusting?" "She's fine. Kids are resilient, right?" Saskia gave me a look that said she had serious doubts, but we didn't push it. We'd offered to babysit any time Rafferty needed help, and he'd taken us up on it exactly once, dropping Emberly off for a weekend while he went to a music festival with Sienna. When we picked Emberly up from Rafferty's apartment that Friday, she had a bruise on her arm, not a big one, but noticeable. "What happened here, sweetie?" Saskia asked gently. Emberly looked scared. "I knocked over Sienna's drink. She grabbed me." My blood ran cold. "Did Sienna hurt you?" Emberly nodded slightly. "She said I was clumsy. She said I ruined everything." I called Rafferty immediately. "We need to talk about Sienna." "What about her?" "Emberly says Sienna grabbed her hard enough to leave a bruise. Kids bruise easily. She probably doesn't even remember it right." "Rafferty, your daughter is showing signs of being afraid of your girlfriend. You're overreacting. Sienna's been nothing but patient with Emberly. We went in circles, and I got nowhere. That weekend, Emberly stayed with us, and she slowly opened up. She said Sienna yelled at her for being too loud, for touching Sienna's things, for existing in spaces Sienna wanted to occupy. She said her daddy seemed different now, like he was always worried about making Sienna angry. "Do you feel safe at home?" Saskia asked. Emberly shrugged, which was answer enough. When Rafferty picked her up Sunday night, I tried again. This relationship with Sienna isn't healthy. Emberly needs stability right now, not some woman who resents her existence. "You don't know Sienna. She's just adjusting. It's hard dating someone with a kid." "Then maybe she shouldn't be dating someone with a kid." "Stay out of my business, Gideon." That was May. In June, Carenza passed away. The funeral was small, just a few friends, and Rafferty with Emberly. The little girl cried throughout the service, and Rafferty looked overwhelmed, holding her awkwardly like he didn't know what to do with a grieving child. Sienna didn't attend, claiming she had to work. I later found out through a mutual acquaintance that Sienna had been at the beach that day, posting photos on social media. After Carenza's death, Emberly had no one but Rafferty. No grandparents, no aunts or uncles who could step in. Just a father who was increasingly checked out and a girlfriend who saw her as an obstacle. I tried to stay involved, calling Rafferty weekly, offering to take Emberly for weekends, but he kept making excuses about why it wasn't a good time. Then came the phone call that changed everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late July when my phone rang from an unknown number. "Is this Gideon Thorne?" "Yes, who's this?" "This is Officer Dempsey with the state police. We have a situation involving a child who says you're her uncle. Her name is Emberly. We found her abandoned at a gas station off Route 47. My heart stopped. Abandoned? Where's her father? That's what we're trying to determine. The gas station attendant noticed her sitting alone by the air pump for over an hour. She was crying and wouldn't go inside. When we arrived, she said her daddy left her there and told her to wait. She had your name and phone number written on a piece of paper in her pocket. I was in my car within minutes, Saskia calling our jobs to explain we had a family emergency. The gas station was 40 minutes away, and I drove like I was being chased. When we arrived, a female officer was sitting with Emberly in the patrol car, the child clutching that same stuffed rabbit from months ago. "Emberly!" I opened the door, and she launched herself at me, sobbing. "Uncle Gideon, Daddy left me. He said someone would come get me, but he didn't say who. I was scared." "I know, baby, I know. You're safe now." Officer Dempsey explained what the gas station attendant had reported. A man matching Rafferty's description had pulled up around 11 that morning, walked Emberly over to the air pump area, given her some money for snacks, and told her to wait right there. He'd driven off and never came back. The attendant thought maybe the father had gone to run a quick errand, but when an hour passed and Emberly was still there crying, she'd called the police. "Do you have any idea why he would do this?" Officer Dempsey asked. "I have a theory. Let me make some calls." I tried Rafferty's number first. It went straight to voicemail. I tried 5 more times. Nothing. Then I called Lenore, my stepmother. "Lenore, it's Gideon. Have you heard from Rafferty today?" "No. Why? Is something wrong?" "He abandoned Emberly at a gas station. The police found her." "He what? That's impossible. Rafferty wouldn't do that." "He did. She's with me now. If you hear from him, tell him to call me immediately." Next, I tried some of Rafferty's friends. Most didn't answer, but one guy named Jude picked up. "Yeah, I saw Rafferty this morning. He was with Sienna. They were headed to the airport." "The airport? Where were they going?" "Sienna got some job opportunity in Miami. Last-minute thing. She told Rafferty if he wanted to go with her, he had to choose between her and the kid. I thought he was joking when he said he'd figure something out." I felt sick. He abandoned his daughter at a gas station so he could run off to Miami with his girlfriend. "Oh man, he actually did it? That's messed up." I hung up and looked at Officer Dempsey. "His girlfriend gave him an ultimatum. He chose her." The officer's face hardened. "We're going to need to file a report? This is child abandonment, which is a criminal offense. Do you have the girlfriend's full name?" I gave them everything I knew about Sienna. Her full name was Sienna Bexley. She worked at a club called Voltage. and she was probably on a flight to Miami right now with my stepbrother. The police said they'd start investigating, but their immediate concern was Emberly's placement. She can stay with us, I said immediately. My wife and I will take her. You'll need to file for emergency custody. Given the circumstances, it should be straightforward, but there will be paperwork and a court date. We took Emberly home that night. Saskia set up our guest room with stuffed animals and blankets, trying to make it feel safe. Emberly ate half a sandwich and fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from trauma and fear. I sat there watching her sleep, this innocent kid who'd lost her mother and been discarded by her father, and I felt a rage I'd never experienced before. The next day, Rafferty finally called, not to check on his daughter, but because the police had contacted him, and he wanted to explain himself to me before I heard their version. Gideon, let me explain. Explain? You left a 3-year-old child at a gas station. I knew someone would find her. I knew you'd come get her. That doesn't make it okay. You abandoned your daughter. Sienna gave me an ultimatum. She said if I brought Emberly to Miami, we were done. I had to make a choice. And you chose a woman you've known for 3 months over your own child? You don't understand. Sienna is my chance at a real life. Emberly, she's better off with you anyway. You and Saskia, you're stable. You have room. You can give her things I can't. That's not the point. You don't just throw away your kid because your girlfriend doesn't want her. I'm not throwing her away. I'm making sure she's with people who can take care of her properly. By leaving her terrified at a gas station, you traumatized her, Rafferty. She thought you were coming back. She waited for you. There was silence, then quietly, I left her the money for snacks. And your number. I made sure she'd be okay. You made sure? You made sure of nothing. She could have wandered into traffic. Someone could have taken her. Do you have any idea how many things could have gone wrong? But they didn't. She's fine. She's with you. She's not fine. She's traumatized, and the police are pressing charges. You're going to be arrested for child abandonment. That's ridiculous. I'm her father. I have the right to decide who takes care of her. Not like this, you don't. What you did is a crime. He hung up on me. I stood there shaking, and Saskia came over to hold me. He's not coming back for her, is he? She asked. No, he made his choice. We hired a lawyer named Montgomery Pierce who specialized in family law. He filed for emergency custody, and given the circumstances, the judge granted it within a week. Rafferty didn't contest it. He'd been arrested when he and Sienna returned from Miami 3 weeks later, charged with child abandonment and child endangerment. Sienna wasn't charged with anything, since technically she hadn't committed a crime, but the court file mentioned her ultimatum as the motive. Lenore was devastated. She came to visit Emberly, crying and apologizing for her son's actions. I don't know where I went wrong with him. This isn't your fault, I told her. Rafferty made his own choices. Can I still see her? I know I'm not her real grandmother, but I've grown to love her. Of course, you're welcome here anytime. Tobias, my father, was less forgiving. He essentially disowned Rafferty, saying what he'd done was unforgivable. I couldn't disagree. Rafferty's trial was brief. With the gas station security footage, the attendant's testimony, Officer Dempsey's report, and Emberly's own statement, there wasn't much he could argue. His public defender tried to claim he'd been under emotional duress from his girlfriend's ultimatum, but the judge wasn't sympathetic. You had options, Mr. Kerrigan. You could have told your girlfriend no. You could have called family members to arrange proper care. You could have contacted child services. Instead, you left a toddler in a public place and drove away. This court finds you guilty of child abandonment and child endangerment. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison, with 3 years probation after release. He was also ordered to pay child support, though I knew that was unlikely to ever materialize. Sienna broke up with him 2 weeks into his sentence. Apparently, dating a convicted criminal wasn't the exciting life she'd imagined. She moved back from Miami, and I heard she'd started dating someone else, a real estate developer with money. I hoped he didn't have kids. Emberly started therapy with a child psychologist named Dr. Waverly, who specialized in abandonment trauma. It took months, but slowly, Emberly began to heal. She started talking more, smiling occasionally, letting herself trust that Saskia and I weren't going to leave her at a gas station. We enrolled her in preschool where she made friends. We celebrated her fourth birthday with a party full of kids from her class. She started calling us mom and dad around month 6, and neither of us corrected her. The adoption process took nearly 2 years to finalize. Rafferty had to terminate his parental rights, which he did without protest from prison. By the time he was released, Emberly was legally ours. He sent one letter asking if he could see her someday when she was older. I wrote back a single sentence. That will be Emberly's choice when she's 18, not yours now. Emberly is 7 now. She's thriving in second grade, loves gymnastics, and has a best friend named Poppy who comes over for playdates. She has nightmares sometimes about being left places, and she gets anxious when Saskia or I drop her off at school, needing extra reassurance that we're coming back. But she's resilient, and she's loved. And she's never going to doubt that she has a family who wants her. Rafferty got out of prison about 8 months ago. He's living with Lenore, working at a warehouse, trying to rebuild his life. He's reached out twice asking about Emberly. Both times I told him the same thing. She's happy, she's healthy, and she doesn't need the person who abandoned her showing up to disrupt her stability. Maybe someday when she's older, if she wants to meet him and hear his apologies, we'll facilitate that. But it will be on her terms, not his. As for Sienna, I heard she got married to that real estate developer. I hope she never has children, because someone who could demand a father abandon his toddler doesn't deserve to be anyone's mother. The gas station where everything happened has been torn down and replaced with a shopping plaza. Sometimes I drive past it and feel sick remembering that day. But then I go home to Emberly, practicing her cartwheels in the backyard. And I remember that sometimes the worst moments lead to the greatest blessings. If someone in your family abandoned their child and you took them in, would you ever allow that person back into the child's life? Or would you keep them separated permanently?